Hello, the time is approximately 7:01 p.m. and the December 21st, 2023 Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meeting will now get started. Good evening to those of you in attendance and online. I want to thank all of you for attending tonight's Municipal Planning Commission meeting. My name is Scott Russ. I'm the chairman that will be conducting tonight's Planning Commission meeting. We appreciate that each of you has taken the time out of your busy schedules to either attend or view tonight's meeting online and observe how our town government works. All Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meetings are public notice per Tennessee state law. All Planning Commission meetings are recorded and may be viewed live on Charter Cable 193 and TDS Cable Channel number 3, as well as on the Farragut YouTube channel. Links to the recordings may be found on the Town of Farragut website. Those of you in attendance, if you wish to speak tonight, you can pick up a copy of the agenda at the door. And if you're not able to attend in person or viewing from home, you'll be able to see the agenda posted on the Town of Farragut website. For those of you who would like to address this commission concerning items on tonight's agenda, please pick up a blue card at the door, write your name, address, and the agenda number on it, and present that to Mr. Shipley. There will also be time reserved at the end of the business meeting for residents' comments on non-agenda subjects, which also requires that you fill out a blue card and present that to the town staff. On each agenda item, the chairman will ask the town staff for Farragut residents' input. During this time, any Farragut residents wishing to speak to the Planning Commission on that specific agenda item may do so for up to 5 minutes. After being recognized by the chair, please proceed to the podium microphone in order to be heard and viewed by all. And now I ask that if you're able, please stand for a moment of silence for prayer and reflection, to be followed by the recital of the Pledge of Allegiance to our country's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mark, I've established that we have 7 members present for tonight's proceedings. Therefore, we do have a quorum. Will there be any amendments to tonight's agenda?
No, there's no amendments to the agenda.
No amendments to the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
With a second, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Let the record show the posted agenda has been approved. Mark, are there any updates or amendments to the minutes from the November 16th Planning Commission meeting?
No, they're not. The staff recommends approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Do I have a second?
Second.
With a second, all those in favor say yes.
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 I abstain.
Mark, let the record show that the minutes have been approved with one abstention by Vice Chairman St. Clair. Mark, it appears tonight we have 9 business items to review and consider in our public hearing.
Yep.
Get started with agenda item number 3 is discussion and public hearing on approval of project plans for mid-block pedestrian crossings on Grigsby Chapel Road and McPhee Road.
I'll introduce this, and then a consultant from Cannon can answer any specific questions that y'all may have. This item involves mid-block crossing proposals, one at Grigsby Chapel Road and one on McPhee. The one at Grigsby Chapel Road, which is on the screen, will have a flashing beacon, and it will have a pedestrian refuge island. This one is about 225 feet east of the Weatherly Hills Boulevard and Woodchase Drive intersection. It would be very similar in appearance and function to the island that we have further east, closer to Campbell Station Road, where the Grigsby Chapel Greenway crosses Grigsby Chapel. This particular location was selected because the sidewalk on the south side of Grigsby Chapel Road ends near that location. And also getting the pedestrian across into Weatherly Hills would get them the ability to go through Weatherly Hills and access the greenway. It runs directly through kind of the middle portion of the Weatherly Hills subdivision. So that's the main reasons why this particular location was selected. Do you all want to just discuss this one before we go to McPhee Road, or review the McPhee Road one as well, and then discuss both?
I think we can open this one up for discussion,
Okay.
and then we'll move on to McPhee Road.
That's
And then
fine.
we'll vote on both of them at the same time or individually.
Yeah, that's fine, however you want to do that. Wesley Stokes is here with Cannon and Cannon, and they did the design plans for both of these, so if you have any specific questions, I'm sure he can answer those.
Do you have anything that you'd like to add? Will you give your name and address, please, Wesley?
Absolutely. Wesley Stokes, Cannon and Cannon, 10025 Investment Drive. And yeah, I think Mark pretty much covered it on this location. We coordinated closely with Daryl Smith on the location of this crossing due to the left turns into Woodchase there. There is a driveway so it's a westbound left onto Woodchase. And then, so your eastbound left, there is an individual's driveway on the east side of the island there. And so we tried to strategically place it to give those left turns onto Woodchase as much storage as we could. And yeah, Mark nailed it with the similarities to the one further east near Campbell Station Road with the diagonal crossing through it. And that's to be able to give the pedestrians a little more angled line of sight to oncoming traffic.
Wesley, can I ask you, is this, the island, is it raised?
It is.
It's going to be, so you're going to have the curbing and everything?
Correct.
And hopefully maybe some plantings?
Yes, there will be plantings inside it, and there will be irrigation tied into the island as well, just like the one further east.
Okay. And I'm curious, just because relates to the next one we're
Yeah.
going to talk about. Is there a standard width that you hope to have for a pedestrian refuge island? What's the minimum width?
So the minimum width of it will be 8 feet wide, and that's a TDOT standard drawing.
But that's a TDOT standard, is
Yes.
you want a minimum width
Yes.
of 8 feet?
Yep, and that's to allow the pedestrian to have enough refuge inside of the island with cars passing on both sides,
Yeah.
is to provide a little bit of a barrier and buffer for the pedestrian.
And for how long? Because I know you can do an ellipse, which is kind of what this is shown as.
Mhm.
Is there a standard just for the width of the crosswalk itself, and then it can ellipse back in
Yeah,
on either side?
the crosswalk within it, I think that it is 10 feet within the island, and that'll just be at grade with the road surface, so it'll be flat with Grigsby Chapel Road there.
Okay. And
Yes.
the reason, just so everybody knows, the reason we're putting this here, obviously this particular location, but because we have, right now, all we have is the ability to cross at Smith Road and Grigsby Chapel, and then all the way up at Grigsby Chapel, close to Campbell Station.
Yes.
So there's a lot of residents who had asked, we're on the north side here or the south side, and we'd really like to get over to the Greenway trails, but we don't have much of an option. We have
Right.
to go either all the way up there or just kind of dodge.
Yep.
So this gives them that opportunity to
That is correct.
access the greenways there.
Yep, and it'll function just the same as the one further east near Campbell Station Road. You push the pedestrian push button, and you get the flashing beacon to alert drivers on Grigsby Chapel that somebody is crossing.
Someone's crossing, and that's
Yep.
been very helpful.
Good.
The problem wasn't always the first car stopping. It was the cars after it,
Yeah.
not realizing why that car was stopped.
Yep,
And with those lights, it helps.
Yes.
With, the drivers recognizing that
Yep.
someone's in that crosswalk. And we're seeing that one used a lot more
good.
up there by
Yeah.
Campbell Station. So
That's great.
exciting.
Yeah, I was involved a few years ago with the retrofit to the flashing beacon on that one as well, so that's great to hear. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had.
Do any of the other commissioners have any questions or anything for Wesley? Okay, Mark, I guess we can move on to McPhee Road.
Yeah, we've got a few slides on this if we need them. But McPhee Road is a two-lane road, as y'all know. And on this one, there's not a refuge island proposed. It's just a longitudinal kind of striping crosswalk. This one would be, it will have flashing beacons. It's about 200 feet north of the north entrance to McPhee Park. Due to the proximity to the park, it felt like this location was a good spot for people that are on the walking trail on the east side of McPhee to cross over and get to the park. This shows a little bit larger area. Now, the actual proposed crossing is right here. But what this shows is to the north, you've got Brass Lantern and the cottages at Price Farm. Then all the way up here to the very north is Evans Road and McPhee Manor. So this particular location is kind of centered between Brass Lantern and the north entrance to McPhee Park. It's right here where the red dot is. So again, it's pretty much a straightaway. The sight distance is very good in this location. Due to the width of the road, two 12-foot lanes, basically, there's not enough physical space to incorporate a refuge island. Like Wesley was saying, you need at least 8 feet. And that would make the lanes, unless you redid the road entirely through there, too narrow through that particular section. So.
And I'm just going to add this so the Planning Commission recognizes. First off, this was approved during our fiscal year 2022, 2023 budget. So May of 22 is when these were approved. We have a lot of capital projects active. I think the last time I looked, we had like 31 active capital
Quite a few.
projects. So
Yeah.
it takes some time to get to all of these. But since this was approved, the residents of McPhee Road had brought in a petition for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen's consideration this past July. As we all know, McPhee Road can be quite a racetrack, and they're looking for some solutions for traffic calming, which is, it's a challenge on that road. Of course, this was already in the hopper, and we were working on this. This is more about pedestrian safety. I have talked with Darrell, and I understand that this would be a capital project, but the possibility in the future of, let's look at how this works, and if we feel like we need to install a pedestrian a refuge island, that would be a construction, because you'd have to widen the road.
Correct. Yep. And you'd have to taper out McPhee Road at an
Yeah.
appropriate taper width
Yeah.
for drivers at the design speed to be
Yeah.
able to shift them over, get them to the side of it, and shift them back into the existing alignment.
And with the fact that you've got that left-hand turn lane there,
Yep.
that kind of complicates things.
Yes.
But certainly something that I would be willing to entertain in the future, but we know that it's a capital project, and of course, looking at what our other opportunities are. I just wanted to let you all know that there's a bigger thing going on here. We're looking at the speed and the whole corridor, and trying to study the whole corridor to see are there other options for how to manage the speed on that road, because in this particular area, it's at the 85th percentiles, about 43 or 44 miles per hour, which you can see how close the pedestrian facilities are to cars that are traveling way too fast for that. So that's a concern all the way up and down McPhee Road, and we are working on getting data so that we can move forward with some ideas. I've talked about possibly lining the edges to try and bring in the view of the road. What would that do? But I think until we have data, because we need to know, does that work? If it doesn't work, move along to look at other opportunities. So I just wanted you guys to know that we're kind of in discussion with the McPhee Road residents to address speeding along that.
That's good. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Mark, if this is approved tonight and it goes, receives approval from the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, what kind of time frame are we looking on, knowing that it is in that CIP?
Yeah, I'm
And
not really sure. I'd have to get with Darrell on that. He would probably have a better idea. He was unable to make this meeting, but yeah, hopefully Sooner better than later.
Assuming it'd require the lane closure while construction's
Yeah, we'd have to
ongoing
do
and-
traffic control and, yeah.
And what kind of duration of time was that typically?
I don't remember, do you remember how long it took to do?
I think it was either a 45 or a 60-day closure, but that seems almost a little excessive.
Yeah,
that-
It'd probably be closer to a 30-day, just to have the contractor working off-peak hours is what we would put in there, so they wouldn't be working during AM and PM peak hours,
Okay, so
or
don't-
Fridays or.
And would you expect that would happen during the summer months while school's out?
We can,
Especially for Grigsby Chapel.
it could be
Yeah.
scheduled
If
whenever.
they're off peak hours, then that's not the
Be
issue.
as big a deal, yeah.
Yeah, they certainly peak for that road, they recognize is at school, the school.
Yeah.
time. They wouldn't be-
If you remember as well, the one on Watt Road, it'll be that was a raised pedestrian
Right.
installation as well. And so the one on Grigsby Chapel will be very similar traffic control to that. And this one will be pretty much out of McPhee, so it should just be simple, probably just barrels and buffers, because you do have 12-foot lanes out there. So you would be able to still have two-way traffic, just even if it's through traffic control with barriers of some sort, cones or not barrier rail. This isn't that type of construction.
Okay,
I do have one citizen that signed up. to
okay.
speak.
If you would, who do we have signed up?
It's George Ellis. Do you want to speak, George?
Mr. Ellis, would you,
I'm gonna decline, I think it's been covered by Mrs. Paulman.
and you're satisfied with that, Mr. Ellis? Thank you. Okay, with discussion closed, we'll need a motion to approve the pedestrian crossings for both Grigsby Chapel and McPhee Road.
Move for approval. Second.
With a second, I'll ask all those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
No no's. Let the record show, the pedestrian crossings at Grigsby Chapel Road and McPhee Road approved unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Wesley.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 4, discussion and public hearing on a site plan for Duncan Farragut, 13038 Kingston Pike, 1 acre, zoned C1, Urban Engineering Incorporated applicant. I believe this item was postponed from the November 21st Planning Commission meeting.
Yeah, this location is just to the east of the Dixie Lee Liquor Store near the intersection of South Watt Road and Kingston Pike. The building is proposed to be around 2,200 square feet. There's a proposed full in access and right out access with a short taper. The access is within a platted access easement that was approved many years ago by the Planning Commission. So they're just basically staying within that. Basically what happens on the north side of Kingston Pike, we'll just try to work with those property owners to try to align whatever might develop on the north side with this particular access point, since this one is within the platted easement. The applicant, it was postponed last month as the applicant was trying to work out some cross-lot vehicular agreement with the property to the west, and they were unable to work that out. So what they're proposing with this particular site plan is the access would be tied into the Cool Sports Ice-Arium to the south. It was actually designed, Cool Sports was designed with temporary parking spaces in this section of their parking lot for potential access at some point in the future, and they've been able to work out apparently an agreement with that property owner to go ahead and continue the access into their property along with the sidewalk pedestrian connection. And that would give patrons of the business here at Dunkin' Donuts the ability, especially if they're going west, to be able to get out to South Watt Road and up to a signalized intersection. They do have a cross lot stubbed out to the east to whatever might develop on this parcel, which hopefully would eventually tie into the Dollar General tract, which is east of that. This is laid out to where if someday in the future they were able to work out an agreement with the property to the west, you could go ahead and extend that pretty easily into that property. But right now, that's not being shown. As far as other site components, most of the parking lot will be permeable pavers. There's no detention basin. And so that is being used to accommodate the stormwater and also meet the town's low impact development requirement. They are slightly underparked for a restaurant, but the ratio for a restaurant is really kind of geared toward a sit-down kind of establishment. This would really be geared toward mostly drive-through. Vast majority of the people that are going to be coming in here are going to be going through the drive-through. Most of the parking would be probably for employees. So the staff is okay with having a few spaces under the requirement in this case based on the nature of this particular restaurant. And the building itself is mostly brick. It's about 77%. It's thin brick that will be mortared in place to meet the town's requirements for masonry and architectural design standards. So that's kind of an overview of what they're proposing, and the staff recommends approval of the site plan subject to the 5 comments that are included with the staff recommendations.
Okay, before we move on to discussion, based on the staff information that you've provided, Mark, could we have a motion?
Move to approve with the subject twos.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, with a second on the floor, Mark, are there any persons signed up to comment on this item?
No, sir.
Okay, do we have a representative from Urban Engineering? Good
Yep.
evening.
Good evening, Chris Sharp, 10330 Hardin Valley Road.
Hello, Chris.
Good morning.
Good evening.
Good evening. Whatever it
Good
is.
morning. I hope it's not morning.
I was thinking about donuts. We don't have any issue with it, with the comments.
Okay. Vice Mayor Povlin, would you like to open discussion?
I have a real quick question. If they could gain access to, cross-access to Dixie Lee next door, where would it be? Can you point that out?
Yeah, it would be right here.
That's what I thought. All right.
Yep, right in the
So you
back.
might square that off and then have a stop sign or something?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Chris, you're having open discussions with Dixie Lee right now, or have you been able to contact them, or is there any,
It didn't,
just didn't go anywhere?
no,
They're not
didn't go
having-
anywhere.
Okay.
Cool Sports was very receptive, and we met with them earlier this week, and it was great. So I think it's mutually beneficial to both parties.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So I don't know why, but the Dixie Lee access it's a no-go as of now, unless something changes.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, at least they have access to a light, and that's a
Right.
sidewalk that's extending back there into the Cool Sports, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's gonna be nice for the people there that,
Yeah, getting that sidewalk was very important to me because a lot of people at Cool Sports would just walk up there,
yeah.
you know.
And that's what we
that-
talked about the other day.
Yeah, it'd be great for them, I would think.
I have a question. I'm a little concerned. It looks like you have seating for 16 people, and yet you've got 14 parking spots. Some of those are going to be for employees. Do you feel okay with that? Is that what you're selling us?
I do, and more importantly, Duncan seems comfortable with that.
Okay.
At least their developer seems comfortable with that.
I was just concerned for y'all, make sure you,
And that's based on other similar type restaurants that are predominantly drive-through, so.
okay.
That was, Commissioner Pinchuk we had some discussion about that at the VRRB too, and when they brought the landscape plan, and there's some discussion about parking and, weather. And again, I think like you said, this is going to be more of a drive-through Dunkin' Donuts than a pull-in, sit-down type restaurant. I'm satisfied with it.
Well, and people come in and they come in and they leave pretty quickly.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not- It's
what
not
you
like they
see.
stay there, yeah.
Out.
Yeah.
Gotta be like a Starbucks or a Monero.
You look at Dunkin' number one, that's what they do. They come in, get their donuts and their coffee and go right back
Go
out.
right out, yeah.
When I was in the commercial world, I used to have a lot of meetings in these type of places, so, just want to make sure you're all okay.
Do any other commissioners have any comments or questions they'd like to add? Okay, with discussion closed, and we have a motion and a second on the floor with the subject twos. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Noes? No noes. Let the record show. Agenda item number 4 for Dunkin' Donuts site plan has been approved unanimously.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chris. Have a nice holiday. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 5, discussion and public hearing on a request to amend the future land use map in the comprehensive land use plan update for the property located at 209 North Watt Road, from Parks and Recreation to commercial. Deborah Wilkerson, applicant.
Yeah, this is actually advertised as a public hearing, but it's just for notice purposes. We have to give a 30-day notice on land use map amendments, and so we'll take action on this next month, but it's pretty straightforward. We talked a little bit about it last month. Basically, we're just trying to make the future land use map consistent with the zoning district request that would be redressed under the next item. Their property is currently shown as Parks and Recreation, and that was basically a byproduct of the public workshop session that we had out at Watt Road, where we made some amendments to the future land use map. And some of those properties that immediately abutted the Mayor Bob Leonard Park received a Parks and Recreation designation, and they were, before that, they were medium density residential. So this one, they're requesting to go to the commercial land use because their rezoning request is to the general commercial zoning district to make it consistent. So ultimately, what's shown in resolution 2313 will be presented for a vote next month. The staff is in support of this. It would make the map, again, consistent with the rezoning request that we'll review at the next item. But if anyone has any questions about this one, I can try to answer those.
None.
Consistent with
Okay.
what we've talked about before.
Yeah, that's been
That's
good.
what it is, yeah. Okay, go to the next one then.
Agenda item number 6, discussion and public hearing on request to rezone the property located at 209 Watt Road from R1 to C1, 1.7 acres. Deborah Wilkerson, applicant.
Yeah, and we talked about this last month. It involves about a 1.7 acre tract that is just south of Mayor Bob Leonard Park on North Watt Road. It's currently zoned rural residential. The applicant is requesting to rezone it to general commercial. There's 2 existing homes and some accessory structures on the property. As you can see on the map there, the property is mostly surrounded by general commercial. You have that to the west and the south, and also on the other side of Watt Road, east side. So the requested rezoning, the staff is in support of this, and it is reflected in ordinance 23-20, and the staff recommends approval of this rezoning request as expressed in resolution PC-23-14.
Okay, before we open up discussion for PC-23-14, is there a motion on the floor to approve?
Move to approve.
And with a second, I'll open up discussion. Vice Mayor Pavlin, do you have anything
don't.
you'd like to add
I
to
have
this?
nothing.
Mayor Williams, do any other commissioners have any comments or questions?
I have a question. The other property that joins that we've acted on recently, it's gonna have the grocery store and what have you. We did some work with that back corner there on that property. Is that gonna come back to maybe change it the way we would have liked to have had it if it was all combined piece of property?
Yeah, I mean, that will help with that project. They also have amended the buffer zoning requirements, the buffer strip requirements, to allow the planning commission the ability to revisit buffer requirements when, for properties that are residentially zoned, but they're shown as non-residential in the future land use map. That really may not be necessary to bring that back to you all because of this rezoning.
There's a plat note in there. Didn't we
Yeah.
put a plat note on there that wasn't required if the zoning was changed or something?
Yeah. So this should nullify that. But the ordinance was also changed to give the planning commission that ability should it, should that be needed. So that should take care of it, what they're requesting, yeah.
Anything else?
Okay, I believe that closes discussion. Mark, because this is a resolution, do we do roll call votes on all resolutions?
No, not as
Or
far as.
Voice vote is good? Okay, well, with the
None of it's
motion has been seconded on the floor, I'll ask if the motion stands as presented. And I believe it does.
Yes.
And I'll ask that all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Noes? No noes. Let the record show that Resolution PC-23-14 is approved unanimously. Agenda item number 7, request for approval for the installation of 1,026 linear feet of 2-inch gas line along a portion of Kingston Pike and Federal Boulevard for KUB. KUB applicant.
Yeah, this item is mentioned in the caption, a little over 1,000 linear feet of new gas line, 2-inch plastic gas main line. Initially, it'll start out at Kingston Pike. It's this red line here on the screen. It's a little bit hard to see. And run along the east side of Chamber of Commerce property, and then go back to the east, and then run along the west side of Federal and tie into Farragut Crossing Drive in the Farragut Crossing subdivision. So most of this will be directional boring. There'll be a couple of places where they'll have to do some open cuts to tie in the line with the tie-ins and tie-outs, and that's pretty typical, frankly, with most utility projects. So it's pretty straightforward, but the staff recommends approval of this utility-related project.
With the subject tos.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We'll open that up for discussion. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
Why is it needed?
Really, it's just needed to increase the reliability of our system, just to provide, like I said, reliability to our gas customers, just so that we continue to analyze our system and look for where we have weak points and that one thing could happen and affect a lot of customers. So adding this extra feed just makes it so that our system is stronger.
So it's not replacing something that's defective, damaged, or whatever?
Correct. It's just making it stronger.
Stronger. Okay.
Okay, before we continue, could I please have your name and your address for the record, please?
My name is Tim Kelly at KUB. Address is 4505 Middlebrook Pike, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Vice Mayor Povlin?
How are the affected property owners notified?
We're going to be sending out postcards before we start. Then the postcards are ready to be mailed once this is approved.
Okay, also, if you could give the town of Farragut that information, then we could put it out generally on our next door or on our town Facebook page. That
Sure.
way,
I can
If they
send-
don't see the postcard, they may see a social media post.
Sure.
Thank you.
And typically, our communications department may also do that duplicate notification. We use Nextdoor to notify people, put things on Facebook when
That
things
would be
come out.
helpful.
Everybody satisfied?
Yes.
We have a second on the floor. Motion stands with subject twos. Now that I ask that all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. No nos. Let the record show. Agenda item number 7 has been approved unanimously. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8, request for approval for the installation of new fiber optic lines for Charter and Spectrum in the Cove at Turkey Creek subdivision. Global Communications applicant.
Yeah, this request involves installing a 2-inch fiber conduit in all the streets in one side of all the streets in the Cove at Turkey Creek subdivision. It'll be installed using directional boring with a depth of at least 36 inches. The staff has reviewed this and recommends approval, subject to the 2 conditions, obtaining the right-of-way permit, including coordination of erosion and traffic control measures and inspections, and then notifying all the affected property owners prior to the work being initiated.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve with the subject twos.
Second.
Okay, Mark, is the applicant present tonight?
Not sure if they're here or not. I haven't.
Is anybody here from Global Communications?
You usually don't show up.
No. Okay. With that, I'll open it up for discussion. Does anybody have any questions for the staff?
I have none.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll ask now, if all those in favor with the 2 conditions subject tos, to say yes if in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Noes? No noes. Let the record show that the application for installation of new fiber optic lines at the Cove at Turkey Creek is approved unanimously.
I'm sorry, I should have asked a few questions. I'm reaching out to someone who lives in that neighborhood to see if they have a neighborhood email system so that they can be informed. Do we have any idea when they're planning on doing this?
No, I mean, I'm sure pretty soon because they put on their desired work date before this meeting, but they obviously can't do that.
Who can I reach out to on Monday or Tuesday to find out, in staff?
In the engineering.
Teresa, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
she should be able to help you with that.
All right,
Those are handled through the engineering department, all the right-of-way permits. We just bring them, the main lines we bring through the planning commission as required through state law. And so, but they'll handle the permitting and all the
okay,
coordination.
I'll reach out to her on
Yep.
Tuesday then.
Agenda item number 8 is closed. Moving on to agenda item number 9, request for approval for the installation of new fiber optic lines for Charter Spectrum along Iron Plow Drive and Wagon Hitch Road in the Grove at Boyd Station subdivision. Global Communications applicant.
Yeah, this item involves the same 2-inch fiber optic line conduit for Charter Spectrum. It'll be installed along a short section of Iron Plow Drive in the Grove right here. And then along one side of the new street that they're actually requesting to plat under an agenda item 11 at this meeting. And so obviously there's no residents here. There's no one that's living here. It's basically just going to be coordinating the work with the right-of-way permit through the town's engineering department. So staff recommends approval of this request, subject to obtaining the right-of-way permit from the town's engineering department.
Move to approve with the subject twos, are there subject twos?
The right-of-way permitting.
Okay.
Okay. The second on the floor, does anybody have any further questions for Mark? Town staff? Discussion closed. Now I ask that all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Noes? No noes. Let the record show that agenda item number 9, request for approval of fiber optic cable installation on Iron Plow Drive and Wagon Hitch Road and the Boyd at Grove Station has been approved. Agenda item number 10, request for approval for the installation of 3-inch low-pressure sewage line along a portion of the west side of Boring Road for purposes of providing sewer service to the residents at 140 and 152 Boring Road. First Utility District applicant.
Yeah, this is, involves a 3-inch low-pressure sanitary sewer line that would be installed along a portion of Boring Road. It would actually start in the right-of-way on the old Ingalls property and then run along the west side of Boring Road all the way up to the point where they will bore under Boring Road to access the 2 house lots that this is actually servicing. It's really not intended to, it's not related to any other development. It's basically just getting the sanitary sewer service to those 2 residential lots. So all the work will be conducted using directional boring, and the staff recommends approval of this request subject to obtaining the right-of-way permit, including the erosion and traffic control measures and inspections, and then notifying the affected property owners prior to the work being initiated.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve with the subject twos.
Second. Okay, I see the applicant is present. If you would, please state your name and your address for the record.
Edwin Deaton, First Utility District, 122 Durwood Road, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay, Edwin, do you have anything you'd like to add to, I think you
No,
submitted
I
everything.
think Mark did a good job covering. I think the only other thing I would supplement to the discussion is we have sized it to be able to, kind of meet the needs of the neighbors. It's not just going in for the 2 folks that have paid the cost to have it designed and cover the construction cost. We've sized it to be able to accommodate any of their neighbors as well. So that'll prevent us from coming back and changing the line in the future.
Growing it up. Very good. Do any commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
I have one question. Of course, there's a proposed school there.
Sure.
I presume there's going to be some more lines added along that line to accommodate the school.
That really depends in large part on what Knox County Schools does for site design, where their service points are, and I don't have any control over that. We'll support and serve whatever they build, and they'll accommodate any infrastructure improvements that are necessary to serve their use, whether that's water line extension, potential sewer line improvements, whatever. But we've conservatively sized this for 3 units an acre growth for the available land back there. Depending on what we have from the school, I still think it's reasonable that they could be served through this line as well.
Okay, thank you.
There's potential development, there's that big, 60 acres back there, that Village Green surrounds, that comes off of Boring Lane. And I suspect there's a bunch of ways that you could get.
Yeah, there is
necessarily
gravity sewer back there, and if anything were to happen, that's likely to cause some other improvements on the gravity lines that are downstream of them. So that's, if something happens there, I would expect them to be responsible for upgrades if they were necessary.
Okay. My other question is, I don't know what the school's going to do. They might be having might have a sidewalk or trail that runs along Bourne Road. I don't know if there's improvements coming to Bourne Road. How does that impact these lines? Do they end up, say, let's just throw something out there. If Bourne Road gets widened, does all of this then have to be moved? Is it in the grass strip between a possible trail and the road?
It could potentially have to be moved if there were a significant road project, and at that point, that would become our obligation to move it. Right now, we've kind of positioned it to avoid conflicts with electric there's a section of gas on the front end, and we have a 20-inch water line and easement that I worry about a whole lot more than the 3-inch sewer line. But
Okay,
certainly future conflicts would be something we would look at, and we would
Okay.
adjust if need be.
all right, thank you.
Yeah, that road will probably be improved on the east end. And, you know, Vice Mayor's concern about what's gonna happen downstream is valid, but this is more to service what's potentially going in on this stretch of road, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you, Edwin.
Okay.
Discussion now completed. I'll ask all those in favor with the subject twos, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Noes, no noes. Let the record show that the application for pressure sewer line on Boring Road has been approved. Thank you. Agenda item number 11, discussion and public hearing on approval for final plat of Phase 1, Unit 3 of the Grove at Boyd Station subdivision, 25.73 acres, 46 lots, Lynch Surveys, applicant.
Yeah, this is the next unit of the Grove, Boyd Station, McPhee and Boyd Station Road. This was actually northeast of the previous unit that was platted, which it was attached, single family. As you've been in there, you can see that the townhomes are being constructed. This is northeast of that, and these will be single family detached lots. There's 46 lots here that would be in roughly 26 acres. There's about a 6-acre open space in the middle of this area, which is a great benefit to all these house lots because they get to back up to all that. And then there's a walking trail section that's been constructed along a portion of this open space that ties into the overall pedestrian network of this development. So the staff recommends approval of this final plat, subject to the 3 comments, obtaining the required signatures. There's some field-related punch list items that they are working on. That's the second one. And then there'll be some completion and maintenance letters of credit that will be required, and the town staff will need to come up with amounts for that. So with those subject tos, the staff recommends approval of the plat.
Do we have a motion to approve with the 3 subject twos?
Move to approve with 3 subjects.
With a second on the floor?
Second.
Do we have, we have a second, and do we have the applicant? If you would, please state your name and your address for the record.
Yes, excuse me, Thomas Krajewski, Homestead Land Holdings, 122 Perimeter Park Drive.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant,
Yeah,
Commissioners?
could you tell me a little bit about number 2 there? Field-related punch list, what's going on there?
Sure, so we have some field-related items that have been installed, they've been completed, but they need to be redone by our contractors or repaired by our contractors. So there was some contractor error in over-paving the width of the walking trail. And so we curbed it correctly so that the opening was an 8-foot opening. And we will go in and saw cut the additional asphalt out that was over-paved and then backfill it. So we'll fill that. There were a couple of sidewalk-related items where they were holding some water. So either a panel or 2 may need to be replaced, or we may need to do some regrading around those to help them drain. There was a bollard that was installed an inch too close. There was 3 sets of bollards installed. So most of the items, all of the items really are contractor error and tolerance, and what is acceptable and versus what was installed. And so we're having our contractors come back to fix those.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? Why do we have a problem with a trail being wider than,
Good wide.
it's,
It's Hard to explain without seeing it, but
Okay,
you got the trail, but then the curb comes in front of the trail.
okay.
So it's a
curb,
obstruction.
Okay,
Separation.
So what they needed to do is cut the curb back, yeah.
Okay.
They had some handful of minor, relatively minor things, as far as in the punch list for Daryl to be able to sign the plat. There's some other items that they'll need to work with us on with some of the pavement in there. But that would be something that they would need to address when it warms up.
Yeah, what do we do with ground cover this time of year?
Well, and that's another thing that Thomas and those guys have been trying to work on. Obviously, we had an excessive drought, and so they went in and tried to hydroseed the site, which is a pretty big undertaking. It's a lot of area. And then, of course, after the last application of hydroseed, we had that really good rain, which we really needed, but it was a pretty good rain, heavy rain. So it washed a lot of that away. So we've kind of gone back and forth. They've been out there trying to they've had a mountain of straw and hopefully seed and straw that they've been trying to work on it. So, yeah, it's a challenge, especially this time of year. Obviously, it'd be, mostly rye mixture. It'll just be a temporary cover that'll come in, and they'll potentially have to, supplement that later on in the spring with some additional grass.
Does that pose a risk for runoff here if we get some rains in the spring here?
Well, that's something we'll have to watch with them, to make sure that our focus on those areas that are to be in a uniform stand of cover is your areas where you're not going to be disturbing, usually the open space areas. Try to get the rights of ways in the periphery stabilized in the drainage ways, especially if those drainage ways are pretty much graded where they need to be. That's our focus areas. They've got an area in there that's got topsoil stockpile, and we didn't make them stabilize the top of that because they'll be taking that off and using it pretty frequently, and it just didn't really make any common sense really to grow grass on something that you're going to be taking away. So we don't really have them focus too much on the building pad areas either because, you're going to be
moving dirt.
I mean, and the truth of the matter is you're going to be disturbing, if you're moving along at a decent rate, you're going to be actively disturbing a lot of the site. What we try to do is get these sites in a condition to where if something were to happen and the developer wasn't able to continue building for whatever reason, that the site is, kind of under control and we don't have a potential nightmare on our hands to try to deal with that's going to wash out and cause problems on other properties. So that's why we have that standard to try to get it, in as stabilized as conditions we can. January is not a good time to be growing grass, and neither is July. But unfortunately, it seems like every plat we have comes before
struggle.
either in July or January.
Yeah. I mean, for that matter,
Thomas, you need to work on that.
Yeah, we've got to get ample amount of rain in small doses and regular intervals. Is what it takes.
Good luck with that plan.
But the good news is that open space there was graded. The fine grading was finished prior to the lots, and so we were able to hydroseed that area, and that is germinating. So we've got pretty good germination across all of that open space. So we're happy to see that coming up. It's slow just because we're having these freezing temps in the morning and whatnot. But every time we get some warm afternoons, it seems like it's popping up a little bit more. And those two drainage easement areas, they're swales that come down, and once those head walls, the pipe outfalls and head walls were installed, we went in and matted those early on, and so we have pretty good grass growth in the swales themselves, which is good. It'll help with controlling the erosion. We've installed some additional check dams to kind of help catch sediment until that open space pops up. And even though a lot of the hydroseed seemed to have floated and moved around, it seems like the seed stayed in place because even what looks like bare ground right now has germination throughout it. So we were happy to see that. It wasn't a total loss. But to Mark's earlier point, you know, after hydro seeding 25 acres, which is quite a bit of an undertaking, we went back and really recovered 75% of it at least with straw, and crimped it in so that we had something to work for us as stabilization until we get germination on the pads. The pads are probably about 2 weeks behind that open space from a timing standpoint from when the seed went down. So we're hoping that, you know, we'll get enough warm afternoons to help those pads pop up here in the next couple of weeks.
Is your intention to leave that open space as grass when it's all done? Are you going to plant any trees or?
As of right now, it's the intent is to leave it as a field, you know, as a usable area.
Yeah.
That drainage easement that splits the open space right there, along really between the walking trail and that drainage easement was graded out to be a big flat pad. It could be a soccer field, it could be something else in the future if we end up adding it for the community or the community decides to add it. From that drainage easement, it slopes up, but then it flattens out pretty well. So majority of that open space is usable as just open field right now, which is a really nice asset, we think.
It's a rare amenity.
It
Yeah,
is.
that's nice. They have a big backyard that they don't have to mow.
That's right.
It's a good amenity.
That's right.
Do any of the other commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Everybody satisfied? We have a motion that's been seconded on the floor with subject twos. I'll ask that all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes? Noes? No noes? Let the record show that agenda item 11, approval for final plat of Phase 1, Unit 3 of the Grove at Boyd Station subdivision has been approved. Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Mark, do we have any utilities for approval?
No, none other than what we've already looked at.
Okay. Do we have anybody else signed up for public citizen
No, sir.
comment? Everybody, thank you for attending tonight. Everybody have a safe and happy holiday, and just be mindful of those that are less fortunate than us, and be safe, be well.
Yep.
The time is 7:58, and the December 21st Farragut Municipal Planning Commission meeting is adjourned.